one of the most critical, I guess, strategies I have found is to develop partnerships. And most of the time, either at work or in life, it's really hard to get from A to Z without help. And that's where, for me, I found partnerships come into play internally as well as externally. And they're critical alliances to help achieve a project or even advance your organization. And I know it may seem obvious to say this, but I just want to say it because I found it to be so true. Making sure that the partnerships are good for all parties and ensuring a foundation based on collaboration, respect, and an understanding of each objective is really critical for allowing a scalable foundation for the future. And it's really not about what's in it for me. It's really about how to create a win-win approach. And I also think it's easy for leaders to feel like they have to do it all, but it's really not true. Partnerships are just another way to scale bodies of work and align that work to specialists and experts in their field. So for me, as I was thinking about partnerships, I call this the Goldilocks experience because, to be honest, this is exactly how I felt. When we started to outsource, so I told you about that horrific 3-day wait period for customers, I knew we had to figure out a way to scale. And at that time, I had 28 internal agents all doing the exact same job, which clearly didn't work. So I set out to find an outsourced partner. And to be honest, the company I was working with, Redbubble, that executives had never outsourced before. There was a lot of trepidation about going forward and a lot of concern we would lose our brand. So I wanted to start small. And to me, that meant, under 50 agents. In fact, it was probably 25 at the time. And I started to interview different organizations and potential partners. And I really found that most of the companies were just not the right fit. Some were too big, and it was very evident we would get lost in the shuffle. And others were too small and couldn't scale with us as fast as we were growing. And we actually did partner with one company in the technology space where that happened, and it was very, very painful. So it wasn't until, actually, Rebecca, I had a referral from a trusted colleague we both know. And I remember saying to you, especially after going through the experiences I had, I knew I wanted the benefit of Teleperformance's or a large company's technology, data, global infrastructure, and experience, but I absolutely wanted to be treated like a boutique partner and have somebody who would grow with us over time on our timeline. And I'm really happy to say this has been a true perfect match. Now I've been able to promote and restructure my internal team and develop my strongest performers and outsource not only the frontline work to Teleperformance, but over time we've got these amazing specialty teams, which has been a win-win for both Redbubble as well as Guyana and Jamaica, where we have our site locations. And those teams are also able to grow and develop alongside Redbubble.
So Melissa, I still remember to this day that very first phone call that we had, and you did such a good job just explaining in detail exactly what Redbubble was looking for. And I was able to take that information away, take that back internally, and look across our vast global footprint, and really come back with some strong recommendations on what locations we thought made the most sense for Redbubble. And a big piece of that was finding the right cultural match, right? So I know one question or one concern that a lot of companies feel when they're thinking about outsourcing is, how do you make sure that you don't lose your culture when you're starting to work with a partner?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and culture isn't just important because of the way the company feels. It is the brand. It is the statement of the company. And of course, anyone who has a problem is contacting the customer service organization, and that is a representation of the brand. So I completely get it. And I went through that too, so I can relate. Well, my approach was, and again, I come from really everything from the standpoint that we're all human, right? And people are people, and organizations are a product of those people and obviously the vision and direction of that organization. So I try to start with what is the need, and not just the skills and abilities, just like you would do a job position, right? If you were thinking about interviewing for a role, you think about what are the key components I need for this position? What are the technical skills? What are the interpersonal skills? What's the cultural fit? What would that match look like? And prioritize everything so that you know what your go and no-go criteria is. And that's really what I did, is we started mapping out and talking to not just other companies, but even the options that you had given us. We had interviews with different groups across teleperformance until we found the right fit. And I knew the right fit because some of the language was the same, the approach to problem solving was the same, the ability to be frank and talk through issues as they arise, because that will happen, and not take it personally, but be very, very focused on how to initiate the resolution. I think those were all really important elements to making sure we had the potential to line up. And then after we decided to work with, well, we started with Kiana, as you know, we really work at it every single day and every year. So we have an annual review where we look at performance metrics, but we also measure how did we do along the lines of culture and voice and brand. And we have particular trainings that we present and have as part of the orientation. And we also, thanks to the willingness of Teleperformance, we reorganized the entire location where our team sits, and it's completely branded as Redbubble, the way the desks are organized, the way the day flows, the way the area is decorated. It's almost as if you walk out of Redbubble San Francisco and walk into Jamaica or walk into Guyana, and you still feel like you're in Redbubble. But we have to work at it, right? It's a daily process.
Another key, Melissa, I think was we sent a lot of resources from Guyana and Jamaica to San Francisco to really get a feel for what your culture was firsthand. And then vice versa, you sent a lot of resources to our locations to make sure that we were bringing that culture back in the right way.
Yep, absolutely. And, you know, for any of you like us who are on a very, very tight budget, right? You know, we really were very thoughtful about who went and what was the purpose. And I sent people who had been on the line in Redbubble and had been moved up and promoted into positions, because they could talk not only about the culture, but they could talk from the point of the agent's experience. So I think it really helped infuse how you translate helping a customer who's frustrated, for example, in a voice and tone that is completely Redbubble.